the earlier in the journey, I figured out that the human capital is much better and much more valuable than money capital. It's more about the connections that you have built, warm intros that you can get, the people who can understand what you're building and want to be part of it. It doesn't have to be like, having an equity or doing something, but just like the karma or some other think that they're gonna just give back to you.
Welcome everyone to this episode of the Build Stuff Be Kind podcast. We have Ezgi Arslantay, founder of Fucimo, an advertising platform that is really doing some incredible, unique things in the advertising space. Ezgi and I met at South by Southwest in March of this year, just a few weeks ago. Now we're here on the podcast. Ezgi, welcome.
Thanks for having me, and props to you, pronouncing my name in a very correct form, and props to you.
Hey, we do our best around here to get it right. So excited to chat today. We had a really great conversation. Just love your approach and what you're building, and just excited to explore your path and what's led you to this moment. As you think about your founder story, your journey, coming from Turkey, now living in the US and New York, what are some core motivations that got you to where you are today?
To be honest, I never thought about what molded me before I got into this entrepreneur lifestyle, because it's both traumatic and also quite therapeutic in that sense. So when you think about what made you, because you need a story to explain yourself, to articulate why you are building this company and why you are particularly creating this solution. So you kind of getting back to your own roots and try to think about the connecting the missing links in that sense. That's why it's traumatic and therapeutic in that sense. And so I always consider myself as a builder, whether I'm building for my own company or not. And it's so funny that I always say now it's makes a complete picture in my head. I made a full circle as a builder, because more than a decade ago, I started my career in Europe's / Middle Eastern part of the world, the biggest venture studio in the region is called Rocket Internet. And then as I moved into more corporate jobs, I started building, products, building customer channels, always building something from scratch. And before I got this, my own company, embarking my own new journey, I was actually building a startup from scratch fully backed by a corporation. So I made a full circle, and I'm enjoying the step where I have started at first place. It's a completely different one, and you kind of try to find the missing link. And sometimes there are moments in your journey, in your entrepreneurial life, that you kind of you got flashbacks from your how you have been raised, the core values that were instilled in you, and you never think about it before. That's why I always say, and if you want to solve a major problem in your life, just be an entrepreneur, and it's gonna come up to you. You will find it somewhere along the way. So I really don't have a very straightforward answer for that, but I will say I was always a builder. I was always the one jumping into the solution, whatever it was. And I was always, the dark days were not for me. I don't feeling stagnant in life, whatever facet in life that is. it's always like trying to experience new things and like moving the needle for me. So I moved the needle in this career of choice, and here I am, like met you on a Friday evening in Austin in a Comcast Ventures
Yep,
party, and yeah,
totally.
yeah.
And here we are. Yeah, I love it. There's always, when you commit to something, all of a sudden the connections, the things that unfold, the opportunities, it's kind of a wild ride of being a founder. I love that you said that you want to fix something about, all your weaknesses definitely boil to the top when you are a founder. It's like, oh, I'm not very good at this and this and this and that. You figure out real quick what you are good at and what you aren't good at. And I think part of that journey is figuring out how to navigate that and how to build from that. You talked about through this process recognizing some of these core values from childhood and how you were raised. What are some of those things you've realized about yourself through this process that are core values that came up in this process so far?
That's a really deep and like interesting question. I was I got into myself like walking around the neighborhood. Based in Brooklyn now, so I'm like walking, not like Austin where we have met at first place. Like people walk here, and it's one of
Yep.
the things that I just like clear out my head and walk around the neighborhood. And I was thinking about it like recently, and I think like when it all comes down to the two things, it's one of them is authenticity, and the other is I think accessibility. Um, it's the it's at the core of what I do and why I have like got into this place at the first place, I would say. And I've been raised by two like people who were working for the government. And when you think about it, government is like the day and night of like the entrepreneurial lifestyle. But they always instill in me like being assertive, like being like trying to experience new things and learning from failure. And those type of like moments, I get the flashbacks most often times. And now I'm like, when you like structure it, when you clear your head, and when it all comes down to authenticity and accessibility in my mind, it's accessibility to opportunities, like try to run towards the opportunities when you feel like they're accessible to you. This is why I am like all the way from Turkey to US, like building this company, because it is where the opportunities are accessible to me as a female founder. And the other part is like the authenticity, which is something that I always struggle with. And again, I'm struggling with, because I am building a product in tech where the fund and the success stories often don't look like me. So I kind of like struggle about it before, and I'm still struggling it, but I'm like in a very good place now, because I'm also very good at adopting a new situation. So it was for me at first, it was for me like adopting to this new like tech bro lifestyle, trying to be like them versus being like more in the authentic side. And when I choose to be myself, it's a very like common saying, and like very maybe doesn't have any weight at the moment, but like so I'm a woman, and I'm like a girly girl, and I build product in tech. It's what I do, and I enjoy being a woman, and I have this accent, and I have a different way of articulating myself, and I am building and I'm creating a new category in this like so-called like unsexy field, but I'm doing some like interesting stuff with AI and all that stuff. So I try to work on my authenticity and show what is different about me. And then the magic started happen when it comes to networking, when it comes to fundraising, when it comes to building like very cultivating like meaningful relationships. So to answer your question, it was all about accessibility and I was gonna say affordability. I pitched my product so many times. Like no, authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, New York is not the affordability capital of the world, that's for sure. But I think that's such a powerful story of you kind of leaning in and embracing who you are and being authentic to who you are. Like that's what I think cuts through. I think, people try to fit a mold, or they try to like, okay, I've got to be this certain way or type. And I think it can work. And that's the unfortunate side, is it works for some people, but I think long term it doesn't. And people burn out, and because you can't be authentically yourself or inauthentically yourself for long periods of time. And I think it's such a strength to lean into that, especially early on, and really know who you are and the value you bring and the perspective you bring that's unique and what makes you
plus you also kind of by staying in the lane of what has been successful before you. If you're trying to be mold yourself to be like what does success look like before you kind of like unpolish the parts of yourselves, like the features that actually needs to be polished and what people are like looking for. So I struggle it like maybe like halfway through, I realized that this is not working for me. I don't want to be part of this story. And then when I switched to being myself, and props to New York City startup community that has enabled me to, props to all the like great women leaders in this community that advised me to like polish, like not hide myself in that regard. And then magic started happening. So if anyone is watching this, if they feel like they don't look like this like Twitter tech bros, or they don't look like Huberman Lab followers, or whatever it is out there that makes much more sense in the majority, just do whatever you do. And there are so many different circle of, whether it's a Slack community or whether it's a VC, they will understand what you're doing and they will understand the motivations behind it. So I don't want to say like just be yourself, but just like it's just be yourself. Like I don't know if there are more like creative way to say it, but it is.
No. Yeah, I think that's because I think what happens is you're gonna find the people. Yes, it might be a little harder. Yes, it might be not as straightforward, but you're gonna find the people that appreciate that support that want to empower you to be you. And those are the people you want to work with. Those are the investors you want to have investing in your company. Like, who knows how long of a ride this is going to be? And if you've got to be in this company for 20 years with people that don't appreciate you or don't value your uniqueness or your perspective, it's not going to be an enjoyable ride. And so I think that's such a powerful thing. When you think about the team you're building, the partnerships you're looking to create, what are some of the core values or mindsets that you look for to make sure that you're aligned on those things?
Well, team building in a startup is a whole another story, because especially in the early stages, you want someone like, even you are like granting them equity or not, it's not the problem, but it's all comes down to being a self-starter, like people who likes to question things, people who wants to wear different hats, in a sense, like more generalist type of people, or like in terms of the skill set and in terms of the motivation that they want to do. And I think so I made a lot of hiring failures along the way, I must admit. But I think I'm in a good place. I know like how to assess, because it's good for the people who wants to be in your company too. Like if there's no fit, then they're also like wasting their time. So if it's a no from you as a founder to them, like it's good for them. So they can just like
totally
have a different trajectory in what they're like building in terms of the career. So I always ask for what are the other roles and what are the other verticals or what are the other companies that you are actively applying for.
Yeah.
So if it's a big bank, or if it's a like big company or like a startup, maybe like later in the stage, then it's a no, because they're like they don't understand like what they're getting into. Or if they say like, hey, I'm super passionate about marketing and advertising, which is like the vertical that we're in, but they're applying for banks or like the consulting firms, it doesn't make any sense. So you gotta see the red flags in that sense. Because as an entrepreneur, you don't know like what you're getting, like as a first time founder, like myself, you don't know, and you kind of underestimate what you're getting into. And just think about like they're the team they're the team members, so they're like they don't know like what they're getting into. So I would say I am looking for people who are like self-starters for everything. It doesn't have to be within their responsibility. It could be like why are we like having this like paper cups, they're like super thin, like why are we like those kind of mindset, like in everything that they touch basically. But in terms of the business decisions, I will say again, like the accessibility and authenticity is something that we also follow along the journey, because we have built with the problem that the advertising landscape only favors big brands with deeper pockets and inside connections. And we wanted to level the playing field for mid-market and small market players, meaning advertisers. So accessibility is at the core of what we do in terms of the accessibility to advertising knowledge, accessibility to basically like reaching advertising and, buying like a screen in your neighborhood, and like starting from $50 per day or maybe like $200 for a 4-week campaign. So this is like how accessible it is. So I will say accessibility is at the core of what we do, but also how we operate within the team. Everyone is accessible to each other. Everyone is accessible to where the company is going forward, what is happening, what is not working, what are the latest opportunities and everything. But it's also because we are a small team rather, but we have to work on like how to make it more accessible as we are growing. But my core values are also instilled into company values, because this is what we are offering. This is basically like why we exist. And in terms of the authenticity, it's from like the pitch, like the competitive landscape pitch deck slide to anything that we do. We don't say like we are better. We say that we are different, because we are different. There is no other option out there providing solving the same customer problem that we solve. All the other options out there is serving to another customer segment or another part of the customer problem. So I will say, like, as I've told you, like early in the podcast, like it was a very traumatic 1 year for me. So I'm like trying to get every piece together. But now I realize it's who I am. It's why I built this company together with my co-founder, and why we are offering this solution in that way. It's because at the heart of it, there's this authenticity and accessibility.
I love that like, I think that's such an interesting core value to have as like an external and internal value.
Yeah.
Because if you think about accessibility, just what you described to knowledge and experience and to people and with your platform, on the flip side of accessibility to ad space and reach and market share. And I think that's such a cool way that you have identified that and then been able to not only have it drive you as an internal marker, but as a way of like externally driving the growth of your business and the decisions you make for the value you're creating for your end consumer. I think that's really cool.
But I think I will definitely argue it's also the case for you. You're also like building several stuff simultaneously, and you're such a kind person. But every time so like build stuff and be kind, also like your core value, and you put it on the name of the podcast, apparently. And every time we interact with each other, it's also, I think you're a kind builder, or maybe like another way to put it that way. So I kind of see it like functioning with the same dynamics in yourself and what are you building too.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's you're right. Like that is very much core to who we are and what we're trying to do, and I think that's a great insight. And I think it is like, I think when you're open and authentic and just show up here on a podcast the same way you show up at an event, the same way you show up for your clients and your customers, like that is like, at the end of the day, I mean, we help people build their personal brand, help them grow their business through content and scaling their personal brand. At the end of the day, we have a personal brand, whether we have strategy and execution behind it or not. And I think that's a perfect example of picking up on that, is like, whether I deliberately or not thought about that, it's like, that is how I want to show up in everything that I do. You being authentic and accessible in everything you do, like you're creating that brand everywhere you are. And I think that's something that founders who recognize that and use that as a path to building is very smart. And I think what you're going to unlock from that is that compounding of finding people who really resonate with your personal brand and then want to support the business you're building and be a customer and be a partner, because who you are then relates to who the business is ultimately.
And also it's super functional. So this like entrepreneurial lifestyle is really daunting. You grind a lot. So now you understand like why Mark Zuckerberg wears the same outfit, or like the Steve Jobs wears the same outfit, because in my like small world of making decisions, I wouldn't care less about like the so many stuff that I was caring a lot. Like I don't care a lot. Like, so your BS, like the scale is like, you don't take any BS basically. So what I'm saying is like, being authentic is something that you worry less about, like, you know, how to act and how to like present something or something. So it's like one other thing not to worry about. Like you just like go in the cruise control or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Then you're not like you're not trying to navigate, and we all to some extent, like, you know, we show up around family different than we show up around business associates. It doesn't mean we're not being authentic in both scenarios. We know, you know, the needs or the dynamic is different But I think
Yeah.
there's that way of being authentic that is true to who you are at your core, and then being able to, adjust based on the circumstance. And I think a lot of people go so far down the path of trying to please people or be what other people expect them to be versus that authentic way, and it's then you're just overthinking everything versus I'm just going to show up how I am. If you don't like that, great, the next person will. If that it's like you find those people who really resonate with who you are and what you're building, and those are the people you want to build with anyways and want to create value with long term.
Totally.
Talk to me about Fucimo, the platform you're building. Like, what is it about the advertising space that really brought you in and made you want to take this leap as a first-time founder?
Yeah. Like, as I've told you, I built a decade-long career, maybe like a bit longer than a decade, always in marketing. And I worked for like big giant household names like Walt Disney to startups with tighter budgets. Right. So I could see like the main difference was not the emails that you send, not the marketing strategy, but it's like the advertising spaces that you are eligible to find, discover, and buy. So
Yeah.
I want to build something to level the playing field when it comes to access to advertising. And now I see I wanted to build this product in US, but first because obviously US has the biggest, startup landscape, and especially in New York. If you are advertising, like are you in like you if you are in martech or adtech, this is the place to be. And
Yeah.
the second of all, it's much more like as a female founder, I'm much more interesting and to the people who have been successful before here and understand the dynamics of building a company and can grasp why and how we're building the company in the advertising space. So this is the second reason. And the third reason is that obviously US market is the biggest market in the world compared to the second one, but in advertising it's like 3 times bigger than China. So it's like the gap is like even huge for compared to any other vertical. So I find myself here because where I grew up, only gaming and fintech is appreciated, and there is no other. Maybe like one or two founders who look like me, but they're like 10 plus years in their journey. So, and it's a different macroeconomical landscape at the moment. So I find myself in US and building this company, and now we have like so many top leaders, big media leaders, big advertisers are like joined our community, because as I've told you, like authenticity is at the core of what we do. So it's something different that we offer.
Yeah.
So basically, like Fucimo is an advertising marketplace, and now we're super excited about launching the AI functionality, where AI will be creating smart media plans for your business, regardless of how many people you are employing, or regardless of what is your like the marketing budget. It will create smart media plans, and we wanted to give advertising power in the hands of advertisers, from like a mom and pop shop to North America's biggest advertiser.
So many ideas running through my mind, but when you talk about, I mean, understanding the platform you're building and being accessible and authentic, just again, we started the conversation coming full circle. We're going to bring it back again full circle to authenticity and accessibility. I think is such a, like, resonating with the mom and pop shops and the people who are just trying to figure out how. My parents owned a bakery for 15 years. I started my entrepreneurial journey in a bakery, basically. And knowing the challenges for my mom and advertising and not advertising and word of mouth and getting hit up by every, advertiser selling some magic, potion or magic whatever. And I think especially in the restaurant space, it's such a challenge to really find and have access to, like, where should I be advertising that makes sense? Where can I, does it make sense to advertise on the side of a bus? Like, I don't even know what that costs, but could I? And, and it's, I think with what you're building and educating and supporting, especially, these smaller brands and companies, putting their marketing in front of the people that it resonates with most, especially on a local level, I think is really compelling and really powerful. And two words that very much come to mind is accessibility and authenticity that are really going to resonate with that audience and that crowd. And I think props to you for really recognizing that. And I think that is something that will be a differentiator for you, because the competition is not authentic or accessible. It's in a lot of aspects the opposite. And I think that will very much cut through for a lot of people.
Thank you so much. Like, I know that you are a quiet person. This is for sure, but I know this is coming from it's coming from a good place. So thank you so much for saying that. And just let me imagine your mom like advertising in the same street, or maybe like more affluent, or like more like a local community that she wants to have the word out about, like her recent, I don't know, like recipe or some other thing that she's planning to do. She can do it for $200 per month, right? So this is how it is, like, affordable.
And to the right people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get caught up in, I've got to, like, Super Bowl ad. I got to spend $1 million. It's like, I mean, depending on the size of your business, speaking to authentically and connecting with, from an advertising or marketing perspective, to 100 core customers. Like, if my business, this business, had 100 customers, it would be like, it would be insane, And it's like, it's like, I think people get caught up in the macro of, I've got to be a huge publisher and advertiser, when, like, if you can just speak to the right audience in a meaningful way, there's a lot of power in that.
And you don't have to be a giant advertiser to get the word out during the Super Bowl commercials. You can use one of our sellers, and you can hijack the ads that have been shown, like that are about to be shown in a local bar, in a sports bar. And people actually in your local community can see your ads instead of what the network is, like, sending out. Basically, you can hijack and have yourself, like, have a Super Bowl moment in your local bar.
Yeah, no, 100%. Especially if it's targeted and meaningful to that audience. I think that's also what a lot of the ad space is having to go through, is with TikTok, with organic content being so powerful. A lot of these ad agencies are having to evolve to basically be content engines that then layer advertising on top of good organic content. And I think that's, an interesting and important evolution. I just had a call. Gary Vee did a live stream for 11 hours, and I jumped on and chatted with him for 5 minutes and talked about that, about why advertising is evolving to organic. And I mean, a large part is what they have done with VaynerMedia and being really good at social and organic. But I think it is true. There's even the top advertising platforms and marketplaces and agencies are recognizing, like, we've got to speak more directly to customers and consumers
Yeah.
at a organic level, because one massive campaign is not going to cut through the way that it did 5-10 years ago.
1000%. And now, as we are approaching more and more to political advertising season, we are talking about not like running big, giant TV, like traditional TV campaigns, but we're talking about like handing out flyers in the communities. So it's more
Yeah,
about
that's
like,
awesome.
yeah, it's more about the followers than the engagement levels. Today I got in a call with like a brilliant founder in a healthcare, and she has this like new up and coming like health substack, I would say. And she was talking about like what is the minimum level of like, find like for me to like reach in terms of like finding sponsors. And we talked about like it's more about the engagement rather than following, because she has a God knows like maybe not 90% engagement level or something. So I think for us, it's as the last year was about the building communities, and this year is about the engagement of these communities. So
Yeah.
we're not gonna say like who has the most like followers or blah blah blah. No one cares, because we know, and the people in the local like little circles have figured out that it's much more tangible and it's much more engaging to be influenced by, or to be like met like in real life through
Yep.
this like maybe like less followers with more like engagement levels, and those type of little communities
Yeah.
are making much more sense. So, and the politicians, I mean, in a very like different vertical, but it's also super up and coming after the primary elections has been like down in some states.
Yeah.
They are looking for getting in the heart of local communities rather than spending so
Yep.
much money and time into figuring out the TV ads, basically. So
Yeah.
it's also the case for any other community or the circle, even if like yourself, like because you have this build stuff, be kind community, and
Yeah.
this is all about those kind of connections that we are building,
Totally.
and we are giving our time and maybe like some in some cases like money to consume the content and engage with the community.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking to this political land, the election year, Facebook, Instagram, Google are about to get 4 to 10 times more expensive in the next
Yeah.
6 months. Because
Exactly.
there are a lot of dollars competing for that same
Yeah.
amount of attention. And
Yeah.
so a platform like yours, I mean, there's,
Yeah.
I think, a lot of opportunity for, as you, I'm sure, know, for your platform to really be this more accessible to, because there's going to be 50 to 80% of ad spend that most direct-to-consumer or small businesses would traditionally spend on Facebook are just going to be not spent. And a platform like yours
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
really help them shift that
Yeah.
that advertising budget to something that will cut through, that won't be competitive in the same way, because it's more strategically localized and targeted. So
Yeah.
yeah.
1000%. Yeah.
cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we have one question we ask every guest that's on the show. We can dive in as deep as we want, but for you, Ezgi, what role has kindness played in building your success?
This is so funny because I wasn't super like out there and talkative before I got myself into the New York City startup landscape. Because this maybe we have talked about it. I don't know, but they always say like Europeans are like more like pineapple that is like super tight and really hard to get inside. But once you get inside, there is no seed. But the Americans are more like peach, like super smushy outside, but there's like a core hard seed that you need to get inside. So so when I was like, of course, like before before embarking this journey, I traveled to US so many times, but I kind of like forget about it. And then when I came here, like with this new hat that I wear for myself, it was more like, hey, how are you doing? Everyone was like super talkative, and I was like talking about hey, I just like did this and that, and they were like, what are you doing? Like, and they were like trying to understand, like, I'm super talkative when they're asking me questions, because I got accustomed to, like, when they're interested, like they can ask me questions. So this is how I'm explaining this, because this is how I was bad at building like connections and networking in the US. So from this girl who is like, hey, how are you doing? Kind of like explaining the whole entire story, because thought that they were interested in, to now, like, you see me in the South by Southwest, maybe I'm better now, like, because it's like a month past, like I'm certainly much better. Yeah, it's like, I would say definitely the networking, because the earlier in the journey, I figured out that the human capital is much better and much more valuable than money capital. It's more about the connections that you have built, warm intros that you can get, the people who can understand what you're building and wants to be part of it. It doesn't have to be like, having an equity or doing something, but just like the karma or some other like think that they want to just like give back to you as a female founder, or whatever they feel connected with you, they want to give back. And I will say the biggest amplifier in our business and what we do is to build and cultivate like meaningful relationships along the way. And for me, it was networking. Earlier in the journey, I taught myself to build at least like say hi to like 3 people in any networking event. And it's a very tangible advice, by the way. Like, at least say hi to 3 people. Be kind. Don't sell yourself or what you do, but be the first one asking questions, and be the first one asking, how can I help? So those are my like kind moments that helped me along the way. Because when I was, started cultivating this like networking, and figure out that giving is much better than taking back, then magic started being like happening, basically, like you, like we talk maybe like how many minutes, and we figure out like a way to help each other, like from founder to founder. And those are the stuff that I enjoyed most of the time. But earlier in my journey, I was super certain about like whatever I do, whether it's a New York tech event or San Francisco, whatever it is, like startup grind, just make sure that in a very like 1 hour event, you meet at least 3 people. And you should be the one not selling yourself, but you should be the one like first asking like, what do you do? And then after they explain and you kind of like get an idea of what the person does, and, oh, how can I help? You should be the first one asking those kind of questions. Otherwise, it doesn't go anywhere, and you don't find yourself with the other person who has this like very nice company. In my case, like building so many like podcasts and creating content and amplifying the what the other founders do, and then you don't find yourself with the like the person like Sean talking in a podcast like this, I will say.
Thank you. And you're right. You know, putting yourself out there, and and leaning into conversations, leaning into value is where opportunities then present themselves over and over again.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And by doing so all the time, you will have a tendency to understand and weight people in. If it's something that doesn't go anywhere else or doesn't make any sense for you, like in the long run, you can just like leave the conversation and find another person who much, that you can maybe like connect more. But
Yeah.
I would say networking is super crucial. Even for an extrovert like myself, I thought I was an extrovert. I did all of the tests and I was like maybe 90% extrovert. But networking as a founder needs another like power. You have to be like
Yeah.
out there. You have to give more rather than take
Yeah.
in. And you have to be the first one asking like, how can I help? It is always working. And with the question that you're asking, you will get the best help from the other person ever. Like all of the great connections that I have, I ask the question first in the conversation, and I'll be doing that for the rest of my life for sure.
Yeah. I love that. That's such a powerful perspective and insight, because as a founder, you think about that list of tasks and things you have to do,
Yeah,
and it's easy to get caught up in like, okay, I got to land this one client, or I got to, I'm trying to grow, I'm trying to raise
yeah,
money, I'm trying to hit these markers. It's easy to just fall into like, all right, oh, I got 2 seconds of your time. All right, let me tell you what I need.
yeah,
But I agree. Every time you can just like take that back seat a little bit and ask what they need, really understand where you can provide value. Someone recently described it as like finding your core customers or partners, and then not only selling to them or getting business or partnering or working with them, but also finding people that then are going out and selling for you. And in a way,
yeah,
if you can be kind and provide value, it's like the ripple effect of now they're out telling people about you and what you're doing and making connections into intros, that now you're just multiplying yourself, and where you're showing up, and
yeah,
in the right conversations, the right people will make those introductions and
yeah.
form those connections for you.
100%. And then you will create an opportunity for anyone like, hey, I have this friend like building this and that. And then I have so many stories that I heard about it, like with my friends and like happened to me as well. So this is really like happening, folks. Like
Yeah.
you have to be the one like giving back, like giving whatever you can give to this person first.
Yeah, 100%. That's true. Wow. Well, so many great insights. I'm so glad that we connected and had this conversation, because I know I've taken away so much from your perspective, what you are building, the value you're providing. And I know a lot of people that tune into the show will as well. And just seeing your journey from the perspective of an immigrant, of a female founder, of just your like approach and poise, and that like you can be yourself and you can lean into like your femininity and you can lean into who you are. You don't have to like fit this mold. I think it's going to be such a powerful thing for so many people, and I know there are many great things ahead for you, and in the impact that you are going to create. You can just feel it, you can see it, not only with this business but your personal brand and who you are, and excited to follow along that journey and to have had this opportunity to have this conversation. So thank you so much for your perspective and what you bring to the world.
And thanks for me like being part of it, and even getting my name into something branded as like be kind is super powerful to me. And like meeting you and connecting you as a person, I feel like so this is like the folks who have been watching this podcast, this is like a real example. So my advice works.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
So
exactly.
super happy to be
We
connected
are
with
living
you.
manifestation of connecting and providing value.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I'm trying to remember our conversation, but I think you asked, like, how can I help you? What can I do? Like, and you live that and embody that, and that's that. Again, going back to being authentic and real and accessible, like that's how you show up, and that is very real.
The same. I'm happy to be connected with you, know you, and really, really looking for the ways that we talked about, like how we can help each other
Yeah.
more, and really happy to, getting them like live and like testing them out and
Yeah.
building the growing together, basically.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's a lot of things we gotta follow up for sure.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? Where can we
Yeah.
link to let people know where they can connect with you further?
Yeah, so I am, as you just like said early in the podcast, my name and my surname, the combination is super unique. I am the only person out there. So you can write like Ezgi Fucimo, or you can type Fucimo. I'm super active with my email, LinkedIn, DM me, whatever you feel like you are asking, or whatever you feel like you are curious about. You can just send me a DM on LinkedIn or Instagram, on Twitter, like everywhere I am active. And you can also send me an email. It's called Ezgi, EZGI, @fucimo.com. I am also super active with my email. Probably gonna
Awesome.
get back to you in the same day, and really excited about.
Great.
And I believe in cold emailing karma. So I will respond to you, whether it's working for me or not. I will tell you for sure that
Love
it's
it.
something that I'm not looking for. So you can send me a cold email too. Like I'm 100% like believing the cold emailing karma.
Yeah. That's great. I appreciate that. We'll definitely tag you in the show notes and on socials as this rolls out. Thank you again. So excited for what you're building. So excited for everyone who's tuned in and the value they've received today. Thank you all for subscribing, listening, for being a part of this journey. Please let us know in the comments the value, the nugget that you've taken away from this conversation today with Ezgi, and definitely follow along with her journey and see what she's doing. And Fucimo, if you're a brand, a business looking to advertise in unique ways, definitely check out their platform. This episode brought to you by Fucimo.com. Just kidding, but for real, check out Fucimo and what they're up to. And thanks again, and we'll see you soon.